Welcome to another episode of the Raidercast, your podcast for everything silver and black. I am your host, JT, and today we are going to be discussing the 2022 Raiders schedule. We're going to go look over the opponents, when and where they're facing them, looking at the past records, and just seeing which teams we have a good chance against and stuff like that. So, to get started, let's take a look at their schedule, actually. Let's make this nice and big. So this is what we're looking at for their schedule. So obviously the Hall of Fame game is August 4th, which should be kind of exciting to see. Rookies and stuff like that. Just an extra preseason game is kind of nice to have. Then you have the Vikings, Dolphins, Patriots, which should all be fun. Can't wait to see our team in action for this year. Look at the young talent that we have. Looking ahead, we start off against the Chargers. It's a home game in my opinion. And then we have the Cardinals, Titans, Broncos, Chiefs. And then we have bye week, which is a kind of sucky bye week. Week 6 bye week is not fun, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Then we have the Texans, Saints, Jaguars, Colts. We have the Broncos. We have Seahawks, Chargers, Rams, Patriots, Steelers, Niners, and then KC to end off the season at home. Actually, away. No, sorry, at home. I can't read. But yeah, that's a look at our schedule. I know we've all seen it, but just like to look at it. Hey, what's up? What's up, James? How you doing? All right. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the teams that I think should be wins. Should be is the, term that I would like to use. Wins. These should be wins. So these are hard to lose games, and that's the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Seahawks. Looking at these games in the past, I would be terrified, especially of where the Texans game is after the bye. For some reason, we just don't do well after the bye. That game after the bye is always our worst. Take the Giants this past year. I know we lost Ruggs after the Giants game, but that was a bad game. Something about McDaniels that and the Belichick tree in general, they're usually prepared. That's a good thing about the Belichick disciples is that they're usually prepared. They might suck at coaching, but they're usually prepared for after bye weeks. They make proper adjustments and stuff like that. Then we have the other AFC South opponent, the Jaguars. They should be also easy. These two are bottom feeding teams. Very good chances to have the top pick this year. Exactly. That's right. Those games are a sign of discipline. Great teams don't lose those games, and we were not great teams because we would always lose those games. Same thing with the Seahawks. It's kind of towards the middle of the year. It should be one of those games we win because the Seahawks don't look that good. Their defense looks mediocre at best, and then their offense is kind of an unknown just because of their QB situation. I like Rashad Penny. I like DK Metcalf, obviously. I like Tyler Lockett. But if Drew Lock doesn't perform, which he most likely won't, then it should be an easy W. But, we always say that. And then looking even at the records, our historical records against these teams, against the Seahawks, since 2014, and of course 2014 is when we got Carr, so I'm kind of using that as a baseline for when I start these, because some of these teams we've only faced very few times. Like the Cardinals, we haven't faced a lot in our existence. But for the Texans, we were 1-3 against the Texans since 2014. The Jaguars, we were 1-1. Obviously, that one loss is the terrible final game in Oakland. And then against the Seahawks, we were 0-2. But that's when they had Russell Wilson. That's when they were a much better team. So we'll see how we'll do against them this season when they're not as good of a team as they were in the past. That's what's important, is that sometimes when looking at past results, they don't always tell the full story. And that's why you should always look at what the team is now, because if you don't, then you'll be kind of disappointed. But yeah, that's how I kind of see how this goes. Hopefully these are the easiest games on our schedule too, which is kind of sad. We only have 3 realistically easy games. That's why we're the 7th hardest strength of the schedule. All right, moving on. We're going to move to the games that will be hard to win, which is honestly the majority of our games. We have the Saints, Cardinals, Titans. We have the Colts, Niners, Steelers, Broncos, and Patriots. It's all difficult teams. Looking at our divisional opponent, the Broncos, we're 5-1 against them the past 6 seasons. I looked at the last 6 games. I looked at the last 3 seasons for our division, only because looking since 2014 doesn't tell as much of a picture, and plus getting that recency is more important with these games. And recently we've demolished the Broncos. We've won 4 straight against them. Honestly, we could have been 6 straight if we didn't have that last game in 2019. That was kind of like a throwaway game where we failed that 2-point conversion. If No Fan doesn't have a better year, I'd be shocked. Scansion with Luck should be decent. Yeah, that's pretty much their. They actually have a decent receiving core too for Drew Lock. So if he can't succeed there, then he'll never succeed anywhere. But yeah, looking at the Broncos, once again, that's why history is sometimes not important. You have this team that we've been 5-1 against in the past 6 seasons, even though we haven't even been that good of a team at all. And yet, I'm still saying they're hard to win because now they have Russell Wilson, because they have a better coach. Broncos will be carried by their defense, but if Wilson makes that offense better, it could be bad. Yeah, the Broncos defense should be decent. I'm not sure how good it will be after Vikenju leaves, because he's a great defensive coach, which is why their defense was so good. But yeah, if Russell Wilson is actually how he used to be, then we're in deep trouble. That's why it's hard to win. And plus, division games are always, you never know what happens. And then another team that we face a lot, actually, it's basically a division opponent at this point, is the Colts. We faced them 5 times in the last 6 years. We are 3-2 against them. We faced them 4 straight years since 2018. So we faced them 2018, 2019, 2020, and technically it was 2022, but it was 2021 season. So this will be the 5th straight season we see the Colts, and we are 3-2 against them in the last 3 games. I believe. Let me check that. But I believe the last 3 games were last 4 seasons. Let me check that. I believe the last 4 seasons were something like 2-2 or 3-1. We're 2-2 in the past past 4 meetings, which is the past 4 seasons. So the Colts have always been a tough team for us. We always get them because we finish very similar places. They seem to be always bad when we are bad, and they always seem to be better when we're better. So, especially ever since Peyton Manning left. But yeah, Matt Ryan, a really good quarterback. You have Jonathan Taylor. You have not the greatest wide receiver core, but that shouldn't matter because they almost made playoffs even without a great wide receiver core. Michael Pittman's kind of underrated. There's still plenty of options in free agency. They could get Julio Jones for that reconnection with Matt Ryan. And then you have that unbelievable defense. So you have all those things combining to create a pretty solid squad. You have the Niners, who we don't know who Trey Lance is yet, but if he can be at least as good as Jimmy G, they still will be a tough team. That's honestly all he needs to be for them to be successful, because they still have the same offense. Even though Mike McDaniel's left, you still have that offense in place, because Shanahan knows how to put together a good offense. You have their defense, which is a really, 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 really good defense still. They still get carried by their defense even when Jimmy G was there. So all you hope for is that Trey Lance can actually be Jimmy G with legs, and they should actually be a really good team. So definitely worry about them. Even though they're later in the year, so maybe by that point we don't have to worry as much. But if this is like one of those must-win games, that is not going to be a fun time. We have the Titans, who we have a 3-1 record against the past since 2014, which is pretty good. Our last meeting, that actually was our loss, which is actually their team that pretty much they have now, except a better defense. They don't have great wide receivers now. We don't know who Treylon Burks is. He came in overweight, so we'll have to see how that happens. Derrick Henry's obviously still a beast. Tannehill is very overrated, even though he's only an average quarterback. Yeah, he's somehow overrated. You have a good O-line. Mostly worried about their defense, in all honesty. They have a great defense there. So we'll see how they are. We faced them towards the middle of the season, I believe. Actually, right at the beginning. What am I talking about? They're the third game of the season. So that'll be a tough game just because it'll be, everyone's still fresh. But I think we can win this game. That's one of those games where I'm pretty sure we can win just because they don't have a lot of offensive strength outside of Derrick Henry. But they should be another relatively easy win. The Cardinals are another team that I think are hard to win, but I almost put them in a easy win, hard to lose game, because they don't have D-Hop and they only have AJ Green and Hollywood Brown as their receivers. And we know what Kyler looks like without D-Hop, and it's not the best. It's almost a combination of the problems that the Cardinals have is that Kyler Murray can't perform without D-Hop, but they are really good in the first half of the season. So that's why it's kind of a toss-up, because they're either going to be how they perform normally and that Kyler doesn't need D-Hop, it's just that they suck at the second half of the season, or Kyler really needs D-Hop and their season's almost going to be flipped this time because they'll end up being stronger at the end when they have D-Hop back. So we'll see how that goes. I think that could also be another easy W, another easy win. Not easy win, sorry. A win, but like a 60-40 chance of us winning that game. Same thing with the Saints. Their defense is really, really, really good. And I think Jameis Winston is kind of going under the radar as people aren't really. He's not obviously elite. I don't think he's a super great quarterback, but he can play decent enough football that now that he has LASIK surgery, like post LASIK, Jameis is a whole new quarterback. I believe he had 9 touchdowns and 1 interception before he went down with an ACL tear, which is not the Jameis we knew. So if he can be that solid game-managing quarterback and still make those explosive plays that they need, then I can see the Saints being a problem just because their offense still should be solid. They have 2 decent receivers. They just got they just drafted one, and his name is escaping me right now. But they have that. They have okay receivers after that. They still have Alvin Kamara, but he might have a 6-game suspension, which we will just miss out on by a couple weeks. So Alvin Kamara will always be a problem, but we are 2-0 since 2014 against them. The last one, of course, being the first W in Allegiant Stadium back in 2020. So we'll see how that goes. I think we should be able to win that one. That's another. Oh, Olave. That's right. It is Olave. That's another one that's like a 60-40. We should win, but that's why it's a hard to win game because it's still that 4% chance we lose. Now I have the Steelers here too. So the Steelers are only tough because their defense is that good that they crawl to the playoffs on their defense. If Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky can be a better quarterback than Ben Roethlisberger, they should have a decent year. Or at least be on par, because they somehow dragged Ben Roethlisberger's corpse to the finish line. So if they can be at least as good as Ben Roethlisberger's corpse, then they should make the playoffs or at least be above 500. And especially since that game is an East Coast game, after playing Sunday Night Football on a Saturday, so it's a short week, kind of ish. It's basically a short week on the East Coast on Christmas, so it very easily could be snowing that day or Christmas Eve. I'm not sure if it was Christmas or Christmas Eve, but you get the gist. That's the reason why I have a hard to win game. If it was earlier in the season, it wouldn't be much of a difference with the East Coast, but after a Sunday Night Football game, it being on a Saturday, Yeah, yeah. Don't forget they have a top 3 wide receiver. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Chase Claypool, the top 5 wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver in the league. Um, but that's why. If I honestly think that we got kind of lucky against the Steelers with T.J. Watt going down midway through the game. T.J. Watt's just that much of an impact, so we'll see how that goes. But I think that that's another 60-40 game. Actually, I think it's kind of 50-50 because if it's snowing and it's the East Coast game, it's after Sunday Night Football game against a tough opponent, the Patriots, which is also on this list. It could very easily become like a kind of a bad loss because if Carr has one of those games where he's on the East Coast and he just doesn't perform, then it could be a slaughter. And right before the end of the season, that could not be good. Then we have another team I haven't talked about yet are the Patriots, who are always going to be a good team with Bill Belichick. They went 7-9 with Noodle Arm Newton. I think Mac Jones is a solid quarterback. They have a solid defense. So it being Sunday Night Football, the only reason why I almost put this in another hard to lose game is because McDaniels and any Belichick disciple is almost always beats Belichick, especially in the first meeting. So this isn't their first meeting after being away from each other, but this will be the first one away from each other in like 10 years. So I think that we can beat them just because of that little factoid. But overall, I think we have a better team than the Patriots. It's just a matter of coaching. I think Belichick is just a really good coach. But we'll have to see what Joe Judge and Matt Patricia look like as offensive play callers at the point in the season. Yeah, I see that as being another tough game, especially on Sunday Night Football. That's always, even though it's home, after a stretch of very tough opponents, we'll have after the bye week, even though it starts with the Texans, Saints, Jaguars, we still have 5 games on the road. And the only ones we have at home are versus the Texans, the Colts, and the Chargers at that point. So that's 2 games at home that are really tough. We have LA Rams on the road. We'll have Broncos. We'll have the Broncos on the road. We'll have the Saints on the road. Even the Seahawks on the road will be a tough game just because of the 12th man. So that stretch right before Sunday Night Football, right before the end of the season, and that end of the season is tough. We face 6 possible playoff teams, and 6 teams that were in the playoffs or were basically in the playoffs, as in the Chargers last season. So to end off that stretch, that's why a lot of these teams are here, like the Niners too. The Niners, Steelers, Patriots are all in that last stretch. So that's why I have them on the hard to win. And now let's move on to games that I expect us to lose. These are the games that, and I know the Chargers are here, but I feel like with the Chargers, it's most likely one loss at least because they have that much talent and we always lose one game to them. Even though we're 4-2 against them the past 3 seasons, both the last 2 seasons we have had one loss to them. That's why I have them here. Ever since Justin Herbert came in, although Carr didn't play one of them, but ever since we played against Justin Herbert, we've been 2-2 against them. When Philip Rivers was in it last season, with the Chargers, then that was an easy 2 easy W's that season. But regardless, I think that'll be very hard to win. Just very, very unlikely that we win those games. Yeah, I think we'll have definitely. Yeah, I know. How dare me? I just think the Chargers. Sorry, wrong LA team. The Chargers are going to be tough no matter what. It's a division game, and plus they do have that much talent. That first game at home, even though it's a home game basically for us, it's still going to be tough no matter what. That last game against them, actually at home, in week 13, that's also going to be a tough game. I see us splitting, but I could also see us getting swept just because they do have that much talent. And we have them in the middle at the beginning of the season. So it could go either way. We don't know who's going to, be that good at that point. But even if we're not super great, if we lose that one and then during that tough stretch, we're just like, we lose that Chargers game, we get swept. That's just sometimes how it goes. Sometimes it's just when you play them, it's easier to get swept than normal. I have the other LA team here, Super Bowl champs. It looks like it's a Thursday night football game. So that'll be on a short week after playing the Chargers at home. So that's another reason why I see it being a tough stretch, because we have, it's going to be 3 in the 4 games. We have the Broncos, Seahawks, and Rams away, and one of them is a short week between the Chargers and the Rams. So that's another tough mini stretch of games. Luckily, the Seahawks are not a hard team to beat right now, so thank God for that. But having the Rams on that short week is just not going to go well. Plus, we're 0-2 against them the past since 2014. We had that 52-0 loss, and was Derek Carr playing at that point? I don't remember if Derek Carr was playing that point. I don't know if he was, but we had that awful 52-0 loss, and then we had like a 36-13 loss as well. Honestly, what's more likely, 13-4 or like 8-9? In all honesty, just because of our schedule, 8-9 is way more likely. Like if we had an easier schedule, I could definitely say 13-4 is way more likely. But because of our schedule, I don't see how these additions could justify a worse record. I know, but we have improvements. But it's the first year of a new coach that we don't know how he's going to be. Last time he was a head coach, it wasn't good. So we have those things going against us, and we also have a really, really, really tough schedule, especially that tough end of the year stretch. So I could see us going 8-9 just because we're going 8-9 because of the talent. Because if we didn't have the talent we do on our team and we were facing this schedule, we would probably go like 3-14. We'd win those 3 easy games and that's it, because that's just how tough it is. I also like to look at schedules, especially when making them. It is June, to be fair. That's true. But when looking at the schedule and I look at the games that we might win, let's just take a look at those again. If you split those, they're hard to win, so they're most likely 50-50 shots of winning. So there's 8, so we have 4 wins there, because if you divide it by 2, that's 50-50. So that's 4 wins there, and then if we look at the most likely, not that one, the most likely wins. What's wrong one? There we go. If you look at the most likely to win, you have 3 wins, so that's 7-ish wins we should have. The last, what would it be, 10 games are going to be super hard, and they're super important to win. So we might have probably about 7 wins for sure. I could definitely say a 7-10 record would be our minimum, just based on what teams we should win against and splitting the hard games. And if we go 1-1 with the Chargers too, like I was talking about, so that's 8-9 right there. But we miss playoffs, which is why it's so important just to win the games. We need to win the games we need to win. We need to win over 50% of the games that are 50-50, so that's also hard. But looking at those again, you have the Steelers and the Patriots, who are not the best like the top tier. They'll struggle to make playoffs as well. You have the Saints, who will struggle to make playoffs. The Cardinals, who should struggle to make playoffs. All these teams are battling to make playoffs. So you have to be above 50% in these games. You have to have a good record against them. And so let's look at when we're facing them, like where we're facing them. We have the Broncos at home the first. I'm going to look at after the bye week. So we have the Saints at New Orleans. We have the Colts at Indianapolis. We have San Francisco at San Francisco. Oh, no, sorry, at home. Sorry, we have the Colts at home as well. So that's 2 home games, one away game. We have the Patriots at home. We have the Steelers away. We have the Cardinals at home, the Titans away. So that looks to be about... Oh, wow, I'm doing this really bad. But I think we have about almost all of them at home. The ones we don't have at home are the Titans, the Niners, and the Steelers. And one Broncos. So we have exactly four home games out of these 8 games. So it's another 50-50. There's no... These are the 50-50 games. These are... If we go 4-0 on the at home against these teams, that'll be fantastic. If we go 2-2 at home and 2-2 on the road, that's also good. But we need to be 4-0 at home and probably about 3-1 on the road, or 2-2 on the road at least, in order to realistically make playoffs. Because if we go 2-2 on the road, 4-0 at home, that's 6 wins. 6 plus 3 is 9. Split with the Chargers, that's 10 wins. So, looking at it like that, 10 wins could be realistic as well, but I'd say like 7 wins are, I want to say, guaranteed. Now, just because of the talent, but also the teams. Don't division leaders have harder schedule, but the Raiders didn't win the division, so how do they have a more difficult schedule than a division winner? Unless I'm stupid. So let's look at the strength of schedule for the Chiefs. The Chiefs strength of schedule. Let's take a look. That's taking a little bit to load. Oh, this doesn't tell me anything. Okay, hold on. This is gonna be a little bit defined. They have 7th, but there's 8 division winners. Well, let's just look at NFL division, NFL strength of schedule. 2022. So let's take a look. The Rams have the toughest, which makes sense, and it depends on your division too. Like, it depends on how many made playoffs, stuff like that. So Rams, Cardinals, Cincy have the top 3. And then it's Buccaneers, Niners, Chiefs. So Chiefs are tied for 5th place. We're tied for 7th. So the Chiefs do have a tougher schedule than us by 2 games. Their opponent's record is 154 and 135, and ours is 152 and 136 and 1. So we are a 1.5-ish games easier than theirs. But the Chargers are also in the top 10. So Broncos have 15th because they have a tough division, but they have 4th place opponents, so that's why. But the easiest schedule is the Cowboys, which is not surprising because they're in the the bottom 4 of the NFC East because they face each other. But the Cowboys are the best team, but they don't face the best opponents because they have 6 games against the NFC East, and you have, that's pretty much why. And like the AFC South is also 3 of the easiest schedules. Yeah, this strength of schedule stuff, like the way the NFL does their schedule is super, super smart because it creates parity, which is super important. You don't want the same teams. I mean, it ends up happening sometimes, but you don't want the same teams to completely dominate. Yeah, the Raiders always end up with a hard schedule because we always have a tough division. The Broncos, Chiefs, usually the worst in the division, have the easier schedule, but because our division's so hard, it's on its own all the time, we always have a tough schedule. 4th place teams in the AFC have been in the past few years tougher than 4th place teams in the NFC as well. But facing them, I mean, it's always hard. We always have a hard schedule just because of our division. no matter how bad the Broncos have been the past 5 years, they've always been somewhat decent, but we always come in third and second. That's why we have a tougher division. I mean, a tougher schedule, because we always come in second or third. Which if we would just lost and finished fourth, we'd have a much easier schedule. Which is why after our 2018, we went from 4 wins to 7 wins, because we faced easier opponents. That's why they do it, is so that the bottom has a chance to get better in their record. But by getting better, they have to face better opponents the next season, which is why you see a lot of teams like kind of fluctuate. Like us and the Broncos were kind of, and the Chargers were all kind of intermingling at the bottom and changing spots. And the Chiefs stayed on top because they were the dominant team. But yeah, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to look at is we're going to try and guess the Raiders schedule. We're going to go game by game, except the website's frozen, so let's give it a second. Exit this page. Hold on. Oh, Lord. Uh-oh. Yeah, this page is having a problem. No crap. Let's try it again. There we go. All right. Let's take a look at this. Let's switch to the screen share. All right. So, game 1. Can you see everything? Oh, yes, you can. That's perfect. Great. Awesome. All right, game 1. Raiders, Chargers. I'm going to choose, I want to say Raiders, so I think we win that first game. I think we come in super strong. McDaniels has prepares really well. So having that first game with all that preparation, our defense will be fresh, our offense will be fresh. Carr at the beginning of the season usually is pretty decent. Especially last season, we always start hot. Live by the card, die by the card, exactly. So I think we win that game. It's going to be kind of a home crowd vibe. They have a more predictable team than we do because they have the same coaching staff, so they won't really be able to predict what we do. I think our defense will show that it's going to be a top 10 unit, I think, or close to it. All right, Cardinals, Raiders. I don't think the Cardinals will be that good at the beginning of the season. No D-Hop. Hollywood Brown's not that good. I don't care about the connection with Kyler. I think we start 2-0 now with the Titans. It's going to be a tough game, again, because of Derrick Henry, and we have had bad run defenses the past few years, but I think our offensive firepower will keep that in check, so I have us going 3-0. I think I'm going to have us go 4-0, in all honesty. I think we're going to beat the Broncos our first matchup, especially since it's at home. I think we'll have a much better home crowd this season. I think Raiders fans will actually be, we made playoffs, so Vegas fans will want to go see us because we're a playoff team, and they want to see us win because now we have Devontae, we have all these we now have stars to add to people coming, so I think that should bring better home crowds. But then I have us losing Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. That's usually what happens. I don't think we're going to beat the Chiefs very easily. Titans game become a guaranteed win with Sue. No, only because Derrick Henry is just that good that it doesn't matter how good your interior is. You have to completely game plan to neutralize him, which I think Patrick Graham can do. I think Patrick Graham's going to be the difference maker because he will game plan to make sure that Derrick Henry does not have the same impact and force Tannehill to win the game, which Tannehill has proven he can't really do unless he has A.J. Brown on his team, which he doesn't have anymore. I think I think they got Robert Woods as their wide receiver, so he's decent, but he's not an A.J. Brown. I still think we lose to Kansas City. I think Kansas City still has our number. I'm not doubting Andy Reid. I'm not doubting Patrick Mahomes. I'm not doubting Travis Kelce, especially at Arrowhead. We are not that good at Arrowhead. Moving on. Next up, we have our bye week. So we go into the bye week on a loss, but we're still 4-1. We're most likely in charge of the division. Let's take a look. Texans, Raiders. I gotta give it to us. I can't see us losing that one, especially at home after a bye week against a very trash Texans team. Knock on wood. Should be a loss. I mean, should be a win for us. Raiders, Saints. This one's a tough one. I want to lean Raiders, but I could very easily see us losing to the Saints just because they're at home. They have a good defense. I could see us. We'll go back and see, but I think we might lose that game. That's gonna be one of the tough ones. I think people are kind of underrating the Saints right now. Jacksonville, we should destroy Jacksonville. Should not be close. Shouldn't be close, but it probably will be. Colts, Raiders. I'm gonna go with Raiders because we're at home. I think we'll have a better home record. I'm actually really high on Derek saying he's gonna hunt for his dad though. Who's Derek Stingley's dad? Did we cause him an injury or something like that? Is that why he's gonna headhunt? I have no idea who Derek Stingley's dad is. Not gonna lie. And then looking next week, I think the Broncos win that game because it's at Mile High, which is always a tough game. And looking at this one, I think Seahawks. I think we beat the Seahawks even though they're coming off the bye. I think the Chargers beat us at home. I could also see those games flip-flopping where we beat. Actually, no. Let's flip that. I think Chargers. No, I think I like this. I like this better. We lose to the Rams, beat the Patriots. Then the last 3 weeks, so we're looking at, what are we at right now? We're 9-5. Last 3 weeks are hella important to win. Derek Stingley Sr. Oh, Jack Tatum paralyzed his dad in a preseason game. Oh, the assassin. It's probably the 80s then, because I don't think Jack Tatum played in the 90s. All right, Steelers. I think we beat the Steelers, even though if it's like one of those random warm Decembers, but I think we win. I think we have more talent than them. They'll play. It'll be a hard game to win, but I think we win. San Fran, Vegas, New Year's Eve for New Year's Day. I think we win, and then going into the final game, we'll be 11-5. Probably have a guaranteed spot by then. I think the Chiefs probably be wanting to win, so I think we're going to get swept by the Chiefs again, but it might not matter because I think we'll have about 11-6 record. There's a couple games in here that I could always flip as well. Like I could see maybe the Colts beating us, but we beat the Chargers again. Like this could also happen. Let me see it. I think we could go like that too. It actually wouldn't be bad. Actually, I can see that happening more than the other one. I think we may sweep the Chargers just because we always play well against them. Well, I don't know. I think the final thing will be this. I think this is how it's gonna go. I mean, I could, like I said, I could also see us winning this game, so we'll end up being 12-5. But I think 11-6 is pretty much where we're gonna be at for our record for the final for 2022. But yeah, that's how I think it's gonna go. I think going over the schedule is important to look at. Fun games that could be coming up, stuff like that. We have obviously the tied for the 7th hardest schedule in the league, so that's always going to be a hard one. It's going to be a very, very long season of probably a lot of heartbreaking losses. Probably some of those games where we just get 11-6 against whoever. It depends on how good the defense is and Tay plays. I think it's also how important Carr plays, because I think that, and how good McDaniels is. I think a lot of it is more, I think the defense will be fine. I think it'll be definitely better just by default because we actually have a good defensive coordinator for once. I think Devontae Adams will, of course, always be good. There's no reason why he won't be. And then I think it really relies on Carr and McDaniels to make this team go to the playoffs. Because Carr, obviously it's going to be Carr. He's the quarterback. And he has to prove that. People may say it's not a prove it season because he proved it last year. I think it is a prove it season. I think it's a prove it that he can be a winner for the next few years when we have Devontae, when we have this defense together, when we have this offense together with this coaching staff. I think it's very, very important that Carr performs at a high level. He needs to get above 30 touchdowns. He needs to keep the interceptions low. Yeah, if we have better red zone, then I think Carr could easily have over 30 touchdowns and the same yardage. He might have a little less yardage, but similar touchdowns just because McDaniels, the way he runs his offenses, are very much more run heavy than anything. Yeah, if he underplays a significant amount, then yeah, I want to see him cut because I don't want to waste another few years. But we'll see. If we make playoffs, he'll stay, and I'll be happy to keep him around. If we don't make playoffs, that'll be very, very disappointing. Actually, I think it'll be very disappointing if we don't win a playoff game, because we made the playoffs in that hell of a season. If we can't make it with all this talent and all this the new coaching and stuff like that, better coaching, better players, that'll be disappointing if we don't get a win. Not even making playoffs won't satisfy me unless we win. Yeah, exactly. Chase Carpenter is going to be the QB1 of the future, obviously. That's why he went undrafted. He'll be like the Tom Brady story, but on steroids. But yeah, that's how the schedule's going to go. That's my thoughts on the schedule in general. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for those who turned in. And have a great